he has exciting news on his life journey. He made his declaration of faith today. So praises be to God. Uh, we have Assemblyman Demond Meeks here today. The only way that I can get him here was to get his wife here. Yes. And there he is. Demond has been doing an outstanding job at the state Senate level. And he's good friends with, uh, uh, is it Mandani, who's running for, is he in the assembly? Right, right. That's right. And I'm quite sure you have influence over him. Yes. Um, I want to also recognize President Miguel Melendez. Miguel, you here? There he is. He has. He's in his second term. He won the election. Uh, he's one of the stalwarts in our city government. He gets things done. Recently, early in the year, you might have read in the paper where there was a traffic stop by ICE, and Rochester is a sanctuary city. He had to stand up to the federal government, and I'm told he had a private call with President Trump, and he put him in his place. And Miguel, if that's not true, we're gonna make it true. You know. Um, we also have with us today the president of the Rochester City School District, uh, Camille Simmons, and she's in her second term. And Camille, when it was all said and done, she received more votes than the mayor. You know, so I really want to say to her, mayor elect instead of president of the city council. You don't want that responsibility just yet. I think on his way will be a school board member, Isaiah Santiago. Uh, he's supposed to be with us today, but he's the youngest member in the history of the Rochester City School District. You know, so we thank him. You know, so I invited Sister Robin Wiltz here today. I don't know if she's here or she's coming in, but I did want to make mention of her because she's been an outstanding voice for the determination and struggle of the Palestinian people. And they are caught up right now in a genocide happening right before our eyes, and we can see it each and every day in the palm of our hands through our cell phones. Uh, the only thing that we have right now is our voice and advocacy, and she put that on the line, and it cost her in a highly contested election, as it has cost many Americans who speak out for this atrocity. They lose their seats in government. And I wanted her to know that we see her, that we honor her high sensitivities for that determination and struggle of our Palestinian brothers and sisters, and we salute her. So it's with this outstanding recognition that we're here today to pay tribute to the fourth annual Independence Day address, which is a great reflection on the progress and national purpose, and one that pays tribute to the legacy of American intellect and freedom advocate Frederick Douglass. This is the fourth annual one. We're planning one a little bigger for next year, and we hope that this group that has come out today will assist in helping us plan that. Hopefully, much bigger uh, event in terms of getting the community together. Rochester is a special place. Uh, we we have a great deal of debt that we would owe our ancestors. It's been said of the African American people, and folks here in America that there's no unity when it comes to us. That is not true. Nobody came for us. We're here 400 years. Nobody came for us. There wasn't special legislation passed until people like Frederick Douglass and other ancestors came forward. We freed ourselves, and we freed it through the determination and struggle of being in unity. And it took public addresses like we're having today. And this is the purpose of this public address, is to continue to call us to responsibility. And our elders and our ancestors, they did that. We know that Frederick Douglass spoke in many places um, in the city of Rochester, Canandaigua, and in this area. And when I was on the Rochester Freedom Trail Commission, we marked a lot of those sites, documented them. Uh, they're here for us to see and enjoy. But he became one of the foremost authorities and orators on the freedom of the human person. And it was his language and his advocacy right here in Rochester where he did his work. And what I would like you all to join me in is that we continue to bring him forward and bring him forth in our history and introduce him a little bit more to the world so the international world can realize the language that they have to have in order to experience the same freedom that we had. Our Palestinian brothers and sisters who are in our hearts and our minds, we would hope that one day they would be free soon, but they would follow the same pattern that Frederick Douglass had. And that pattern, it helped to free South Africa. Nelson Mandela followed that pattern. So we owe a great deal of debt to Frederick Douglass. The Imam is here with us. We're waiting on him patiently. We've had one other person to come in. I wanted to recognize her. She's the newly elected city councilwoman, Kiara Smith. I don't know why you're in the back. Come on down here. We got a seat for you. Kiara ran for office a few years ago. She lost and said that she was just going to give up on it. And she went home and got in her closet and prayed. And through inspiration, she came out and ran a tremendous campaign and got elected, you know? So we got a friend in City Hall. Yes. We got a good friend in City Hall. And so to all of the people that is here today, we thank you for coming out. And I don't want to delay us too much as we get ready to introduce our speaker. But we are appreciative of you being here today on this 4th of July weekend. So it is my honor and distinct privilege to welcome you to the 4th Annual Independence Day Address, an event, a step. What's that? Who do you want me to? Okay. We have a few speakers that are going to come up in no particular order, but I do want to call up to the stage Brother Duhan Abdullah. He's from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He's one of our outstanding leaders in the ministry. Duhan?
Praise be to Allah. As we stand here in Rochester, the home of Frederick Douglass, I want to extend the greetings of peace, the greetings of wholeness and completion. Assalamu alaikum. We're grateful for Allah setting us on a pathway of progress. Frederick Douglass, he was one of our great luminaries, he experienced the worst of America, the worst that America has to offer. And he witnessed it in full view of the promise of her high ideals. He fought through the gauntlet of inhumane abuses to force open for himself the possibility of experiencing freedom, justice, and equality, which was not fully realized until he left America. He had to physically leave America in order to realize that. And from outside of America, he reevaluated the whole picture, and he even challenged what was given in the people who gave him support, the abolitionist movement. He challenged their notion that the Constitution supported slavery. And the unfolding of events revealed that he was correct. He, as one person, left America and came back through the doorway of dignity to make an everlasting contribution that we all benefit from today and will continue benefiting from as long as we uh, continue to live in this country. Frederick Douglass was the precursor to a whole people separating themselves from America before coming back into America to make a vital contribution. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his people detached from America's culture. They separated themselves from America's entertainment, their institutions, and America's psychological grip. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in that way, even though it was not physical, in every other way, he took his people out of America, where his son, the special child of the Temple of Islam, reevaluated the whole picture and was able to bring us back into America through the doorway of dignity. Frederick Douglass and Imam W.D. Muhammad, the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, both discovered what, as Imam W.D. Muhammad put it, the founding fathers came up with an idea that was bigger than themselves. The purest, the most authentic Americans are the ones who suffered its greatest abuses, being formed in the crucible of America's violent hypocrisy, but preserved in their innocence, preserved in their character, and preserved in their faith. Frederick Douglass, as one person, and people like Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass advised the president, and Harriet Tubman provided vital military intelligence to help save America during the Civil War from being torn apart by its greatest sin and its biggest hypocrisy. Who America needs to look to now for leadership and direction is the one continuing the work of Frederick Douglass, the one holding firm to the guided tradition of the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the successor to Imam W.D. Muhammad, the one who we all came to hear from today, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed, for his address, the title of which is The Commencement of America, the Dawning of the Just Order. Peace. Assalamu alaikum.
We greet you as Muslims greet each other. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Terenzo El-Amin. I'm here from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm as eager as you to hear from Muslim American leader Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. I thank Allah to be here today on July 5th, 2025, at the Memorial Art Gallery, 173 years later, to the day that the Honorable Frederick Douglass gave his moving and instructional address, "What to the Slave is Your 4th of July?" He gave it in Rochester, New York, on sacred ground, And we are here 173 years later to hear from Muslim American leader in the tradition of Imam W.D. Muhammad as he speaks to America and the world, the commencement of America, the dawning of the just order. This day is commemorating at once America's independence and Mr. Douglas' inspired questioning and urging of her claim to sacred liberty. This yearly gathering affords American civic, business, and community leaders, as well as the public, a venue, a distinguished venue, in which to engage the perspective of Muslim African American leadership and the challenges facing our collective pursuit of a more perfect union. I conclude with this honest observation from the Honorable Frederick Douglass, quote, I know of no soil better adapted to growth of reform better than American soil. I know of no country where the conditions for effecting great changes in the settled order of things for the development of right ideas, of liberty and humanity, and a more favorable than here in the United States, end of quote. I suggest us all giving our full attention to the one speaking and walking with confidence and determination, born from the urge in the human soul to be what God created it to be, human life, established upon inherent dignity, deposited in every new life. We are here today to hear from Muslim American spokesman for human salvation in the tradition of Imam W.D. Muhammad, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. Thank you.
Next, we have the Secretary of the Muslim American Ministry, Sister Laurie Dahan.
This is indeed a pleasure to look out and see all of these beautiful faces on this beautiful day. I greet you as Muslims greet. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. As the brother mentioned, my name is Laurie Dewan. I'm the Secretary for the Muslim American Ministry for Human Salvation. On this day, 173 years ago, Rochester's own honored and honorable Frederick Douglass gave a speech called the Independence Day Address, though it occurred one day after the actual date of celebration. Why did he do that? It was a significant gesture in that he wanted to draw attention to the hypocrisy of America celebrating freedom and independence while it boldly and blatantly upheld and profited richly from a system of brutal chattel slavery that held millions in abject bondage. Given the flow and flood of crises in which we are witnessing in our nation presently, can we regard the Independence Day address to be delivered here today, one day after the actual July 4th celebration, to be mere chance? I think not. America's prominence in the world and how the words of the Declaration of Independence has set it in the modern world far and above other nations makes it necessary for a clear voice, a voice unfettered by fear and criticism, to once again direct the attention of the American people and its leaders, local, national, in every sphere of influence, to uphold the responsibility of advancing the preeminent message of the Declaration of Independence that is sanctioned by God Himself, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Mr. Douglas's voice was and still is one of the many voices of African American leaders who have called attention to the great disparity between what America and its highly principled founding doctrine, the Declaration of Independence, espouses and what it actually practices. We're here today to listen to a voice that has arisen from a very special and unique tradition of African American leadership, which has for almost 100 years been calling on America's people and America's leaders to look at what, on one hand, has been America's shame, and to what, on the other hand, can be America's salvation. As Muslims, God tells us in our holy book, the Quran, let there arise out of you a group of people inviting to all that is good, enjoining what is right, and forbidding what is wrong, and these will be the successful ones. In its commitment to working with and supporting the good efforts and good works among America's people and America's leaders, whoever and wherever they are, the Muslim American Ministry for Human Salvation is striving to fulfilling that injunction from the Quran. The Muslim American Ministry for Human Salvation is committed to bringing to the American and global public presentations and addresses such as that which you will be witnessing today. Presentations and addresses which are intended to bring clarity and reason to matters and concerns that are often deeply troubling and clouded in obscurity. Also within the context of fulfilling that injunction, the Muslim American Ministry in all its work is in keeping with the focus of our late leader, Imam W. Dean Mohammed, the Muslim American spokesman for human salvation. And in his hands, he has given that job to the person that you're here to listen to today, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Join me in welcoming Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed, Special Assistant, Imam Ibrahim El Amin. Imam Ibrahim El Amin, come on up, brother. You got me a soda.
We greet you with the greetings that we as Muslims give, the greetings of peace, peace be unto you. And that in the Arabic language is Assalamu alaikum. We are here in this gathering in recognition of this nation's founders and their determination to realize a society whose founding principles focus the recognition, reverence, and guardianship of the sacred entitlement of all human beings to liberty and a just support for their dignity as a social creation. But what is most important or integral to what the founders identified as these entitlements is that they recognize that they are granted to humanity exclusively by God, and that they exist independently of any man-made authority or ideological dogma. This gathering is not just a ceremonial or ritualistic gathering. We are consciously aware of the violation of these ideals, as the speakers before me have outlined. Quote, we have as far as possible closed every avenue by which light may enter the slave's mind. If we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work will be complete. They would then be on the level of the beasts of the fields, and we then should be safe. Senator Henry Berry to the Virginia House of Delegates, 1832. Nearly 20 years later, in 1852, the Honorable Frederick Douglass gave his famous Independence Day address, and he asked a simple question: what to the American slave is your 4th of July? From this nexus of social forces and currents of history, the mind of Frederick Douglass was drawn out. He asked his question not in the spirit of revolution that has as its character the violent upturning or upheaval of society, but as a disciplined and sophisticated moral sensitivity. He called out America's hypocrisy and challenged it to live up to the principles of its highest ideals. He opened a pathway by which the definitive answer on what is the purpose and value of a human being might be arrived at and written into the spirit and determination for humankind. Along that pathway, great minds and souls committed themselves, each contributing to every victorious step along the way. And in that pathway, a tradition was born, a tradition that has brought us here today. It formed a social entity that has as its spiritual orientation and determination the principles of freedom, justice, and equality. And it does not barter or accept any reasoning that would set aside these principles in service of expediency. This is a trusted entity, a trusted people. And it's a great honor for me to introduce to you the leader of those people, the leader of the people who recognize in Frederick Douglass the beginning of conscious awareness in the mind of America's slave, the people of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the people of Imam W. Dean Muhammad, Imam Earl Abdulmalik Mohammed.
The praises for God Almighty. We are honored deeply for this opportunity in this great American city. That has been the witness to great discussion on the purpose of America. I don't know that the citizens of Rochester collectively appreciate Rochester's presence in this world, historically and presently. Is not to be characterized only by its current troubles. It has sacred importance in the life of man on this earth, because it was here that perhaps the most important intellect ever produced by America to weigh the sacred notion that society can develop under God in the hands of man's responsibility, as envisioned by the founders of these United States of America, that Rochester was host to the expressions of that intellect. And that intellect, that soul, was Frederick Douglass. There is no tradition for freedom movement in the spirit and determinations of the African American people without Frederick Douglass. There is no pathway for Marcus Garvey. There is no pathway for Du Bois or Booker T. Washington or David Walker or Harriet Tubman or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Dr. Martin Luther King, and all that is associated with their sacred interests, except that that pathway was opened up in the intellect and born in slavery and inspired by the promise that God has put in every human. It awakened him to the social determination of humanity itself and gave him language, not taught him by America, but taught him by God. So I thank God Almighty for this occasion and this opportunity to address you. And I greet you as Muslims greet each other with peace and recognition of God. And we say to each other, Assalamu alaikum. And that simply means peace be on you. Peace obligates you. You're obligated to uphold the peace. The greeter and the greeted obligated to hold the peace, hold up the peace. The opportunity for me to address you here today is because of the commitment of some persons. And they saw value in what I represented before the big numbers. And I know these persons. I know them by name. They're here presently. One of them is this young man standing here with me. And he's my friend, and so is he. They're both my friends. They love me and they support me for this interest that we have together. And there are three others of these gentlemen. And I don't see them here, and all of them. Here's one walking through the door now. I don't see Brother Muhammad. There he is. Stand up, please. And our brother Imam, please stand. These men saw something very valuable in my grasp of the continuation of our message in public view. And they committed themselves to it in all necessary essentials so that it would have life. They provided opportunity for me in the city. And even before I visited here, they were committed. So I want you to see them as God sees them and as I see them. as honorable representatives of the potential of this city to stand in recognition of God's sacred purpose on this earth. Brother Hashim Smith, Imam Muhammad Ali, Brother Omar Cooper, and Imam Hanif Abdul Wahid. Please congratulate them. I must also acknowledge the leadership, political leadership, social leadership, spiritual leadership that is present in this city of Rochester that supports my presence here today. And not least among them is Mrs. Jacqueline Sprague. I met her when I came here on a previous occasion, and I met her again today. And she expressed to me the need for our message to be appreciated within the various communities that exist in Rochester, spiritual and other. And she gave me a list of concerns, questions, and I promised her that I would take time to address that list of concerns, and that with her permission, we would publish it. And she agreed to that and said that she would like to see it distributed in all of the different faith communities and other serious groups of people in Rochester that are concerned with the possibilities for Rochester as a just representation of society. In preparation, and I have to take my time, I hope you will be patient with me. This is a serious matter. And I'm not by nature, the people close to me, they know I'm not by nature a preacher. I'm not going to present myself as something that I'm not. So it takes me some time to get to these concerns, and the language that we use may be unfamiliar, but it focuses the issue. So I feel the obligation to identify persons that are responsible for helping me deliver this message to you. So in preparation for this visit, I did at least one interview. I did another interview that was associated with the commemoration of the life of Malcolm X with the same persons. And they're here, I think. I met one of them, Sister Takia Butler, and another Madeline Funches. I don't know if I didn't meet her. I don't know if she's here. Yes, she's here too. Okay, wonderful. So you should if you're interested, you should get that interview from the Black Agenda Group, and the discussion, the questions that they had, the concerns that they had, representing honest assessment of the role or potential role of young people. And so the discussion that we had was a very serious and important discussion on the nature of freedom. Primarily, that was the discussion, but it hit on many different important concerns. So I want to acknowledge them as having provided me an opportunity to develop more what I wanted to say to you today. That interview helped me. I'm told that it helped them too, but it helped me a great deal. So I thank God for them. nothing is possible for us except that we regard God. And you might have some social philosophy that doesn't have an accommodation for God. I know such things exist. And even the persons who identify responsibility before God, they don't always have the correct understanding, the correct appreciation for God. I'm not presenting to you the rituals of religion when I'm mentioning these things, but I am coming from a perspective, a tradition of faith and a tradition of knowledge. And it has shaped the people. It has had enormous influence in the conduct and thinking of the African American people. Its numbers are not large in comparison with the great numbers of African American people, but its influence outsizes its numbers. And that is the influence of the religion of Islam. I represent that. That which is associated with Islamic identity and Islamic character, Islamic understanding, Islamic teaching is what has enabled me to be qualified to speak to you today. And I belong to a particular tradition, not any general measure, but very specific, belonging to an awakening that took place in a black man from Georgia and who was largely shaped by his experiences there. Uneducated man, a man whose education, formal education, amounted to no more than 3 years elementary school in Georgia in Jim Crow South, which essentially is nothing, very little. I'm speaking of Elijah Muhammad, and we think of him as an honorable. We say that he's the honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm belonging to a tradition that acknowledges, recognizes his influence and his leadership. His idea was given to him by a teacher, and his teacher labeled what he gave him as Islam, but the details of Islamic faith and practice, belief were absent. Those things had to be uncovered and discovered. But those things were uncovered and discovered in the context of Elijah Muhammad's influence. And it was discerned that Elijah Muhammad's teacher intended eventually that people come to regard themselves with Muslim identity according to the strict requirements that are presented in the Quran, the holy book of Muslims. It happened by way of processes, but eventually those processes crystallized in the intellect and soul of the son of Elijah Muhammad, Imam W. Dean Muhammad, or Wallace D. Muhammad. So I'm coming to you today as his representative. I was his representative in his lifetime. He passed away. May God grant him mercy and reward in 2008. But in his lifetime, I was his representative. And in public ways and private ways, he influenced me to prepare for this time. It's debated within our community whether or not he had a successor. Our people, they are burdened by this question. They are troubled by it. And many of them are troubled by my description of myself as his successor. But I know what his intent was. I know what he told me. What he told me that was he intended for public view. And I know what he told me that he intended for me to review myself in the privacy of my own mind and soul. And I knew that he intended that our community and its rich tradition that is belonging to the eternal freedom movement for human life on this earth have expression in this time. And he could see that there were forces, social forces, that were going to challenge man's life. And that what we had been brought to because of this tradition would be in a sacred center of responsibility to make a contribution in the perhaps most confusing time in the life of man. So, with that heavy obligation on me, we have found no better setting than the platform where Frederick Douglass addressed the major moral concern of the hour. That no society on this earth can exist without this movement, this struggle in the soul and the intellect to determine what is the proper place for man in society. In America, it positioned the human soul in sacred relationship and regard, but it violated it with a sin that in the hands of certain people is unforgivable. Now, in Islam, it's not unforgivable. Errors are not unforgivable. The only error that's not acknowledged by God is to associate partners with him. To think of God as having partners in the estimation of Islamic teaching is the most serious oppression. It is to suggest that man can be God and therefore an enslaver without authority above him. Islam rejects this. So when I'm speaking to you, understand that I'm speaking with that influence. That man comes only before God as his slave, not before man. And any notion that takes man out of the plan and design in which God has established in him is by its nature immoral, oppressive, and rejected. In all people, there is or there are expressions of natural curiosity about the forming of cities and towns and villages and hamlets. And what provides for the public character of those cities. Rochester is distinguished from Buffalo. not just by geographical location, but by the character of the people. The people that take pride in their historical connection to Rochester don't claim Buffalo. They claim Rochester. And I told the brothers, I said, if I'm visiting you, I don't want to fly to Buffalo. I want to fly to Rochester. I want to have our resources invested in the trade that supports the dignity of the city of Rochester, that has chosen for itself Frederick Douglass as its international representative. I'm not wanting to disparage Buffalo. I like Buffalo. I like the Buffalo Bills. I like buffalo wings. I like all that stuff. It's associated with the culture and other things too. But Rochester has its own character. And I want to acknowledge its special character in the context of America's special character as a nation on this earth. Each social group has its role in influencing and shaping the public character of the city or the town or the nation. Every group has its share in the responsibility. In America, it has a synergy in its founding orientation that takes in itself consideration of indigenous people, immigrants, and coerced people. And in that powerful energy is a discussion on the nature of society. And that's the question. And that's the moral question right now. That is the heavy concern in the conscience of every leader on this earth. Every significant leader on this earth is weighing this question. What is human life entitled to in society? You think that's not the question in Palestine? That's the question. And what recognitions are due to an oppressed population? This was Frederick Douglass' concern. So powerful was it and heavy on his soul that special language that wasn't even existing on the earth at that time came out of his mouth to address it. Frederick Douglass, in this city, so many decades ago, on this day, said to America, to its leadership, and said on behalf of America into the ears of world leadership, that America, your democracy that claims Christ and recognitions of human dignity, your behavior in view of those claims, your hypocrisy in view of those claims, your shortcoming in view of those claims, your behavior in view of those high recognitions would shame a nation of savages. You all that are leaving, you're missing something. You're missing something. It's of sacred importance. It's more important than whatever is drawing you out of here. And it's me to tell you that. Don't treat what I'm telling you as low level. It's of the highest regard. And it will define your existence in this country for the rest of your lives. Treat it with this importance. Playtime, things that are unserious, things that intoxicate your spirit and your mind have no importance for your stability and your future. God sent me to you to battle with your intellect. And defeat the demons of the culture. It takes some time for the message to come. Ask our brother who's a jazz musician. It's space and time. Thelonious Monk was a master of space and time. Spread his fingers across the keyboard in a way that jazz had not previously made an accommodation for. But because of his messaging on that keyboard and his use of space and time, he opened up new avenues of expression. And that's what I'm doing with you. You used to rapid fire preachers. Well, I'm taking my time in this measure. And I'm saying that belonging to a tradition. The tradition that I belong to doesn't have as its objective to get you to respond emotionally. It has as its objective to get you to think more carefully and deeply. And as a result of that, act more responsibly. Within the space of understanding the two powerful mechanisms in American life, vision and conflict, tension, claims and reality, high claims and reality. Within that tension is the true picture of America. And America, in the estimation of one of the important political, philosophical minds that shape political discourse, Dr. Zbigniew Brzezinski, he was an advisor to President Carter. He said that America is an experiment with freedom. He didn't just say that for the benefit of the American people. He said that in the estimation of the world, that focused America for its discussions, using its people as the components in those discussions to determine what is the purpose of society and what is the responsibility of society and what are the uses and understanding of sacred liberty. America's history is largely subjective recollections, observations, inquiries. And within the processes of those recollections and inquiries and observations is an arrival at the answer to what is justice and what is just order. It doesn't come singularly from one people. So no one people, in America's estimation, can speak for the whole. It is an amalgamation of the picture. It is a shared life and responsibility. That's why America positions itself historically to be one that invites mankind. It's not to be secured in its sacred idea by one homogeneous people, one ethnic group, one racial group. America says before the world that human beings in society are entitled to recognitions. And it wants to guarantee those recognitions as an influence on every society on this earth. That's why when you describe the American leader, at least historically, you describe them as leader of the free world. America has lost that place. Its present leadership has a not just conflicted picture, but an unethical, immoral picture. And I'm not speaking of that public leadership just to be emotionally critical. I'm speaking of it in the same way that the French people saw the possibilities for America and gave it a great gift of the Statue of Liberty. And now those same people have a painting of the Statue of Liberty with her hands on her eyes, that she does not want to witness what America has become. The charge for America to be what it was intended to be by the drawing of these universal sacred principles by its founders are not just at risk. We are living in a time that was described by Abraham Lincoln, that we're on a battlefield with this discussion of whether a society conceived with these ideas can survive on the earth. That's what he said. The Gettysburg Address. He was there speaking of it was a kind of eulogy for the loss of life on that battlefield. And the way he described it was a battlefield to determine if a society conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all human beings are created equal, and that government can be derived from that idea, can survive on the earth. Well, the present American leadership wants to suggest that it cannot. That humanity at large cannot be trusted that one race has been chosen by God to be entrusted with the responsibility to distribute the resources of the earth according to its concerns and its measure of importance. It is one of the most diabolical ideas that have ever manifested themselves in the history of mankind on this earth, to suggest that one race is supreme, with supreme authority and supreme access to everything that God has created. No. Supreme access is given to the obedient of God. Whatever face they have, black face, white face, red face, brown face, yellow face, or a combination of all of them in shared consideration of each other's dignity. That is who's given charge and responsibility under God. Our brother from Cincinnati, he visited the memorial of Frederick Douglass, and he spoke to you before I did, before I came before you, and he quoted something from Frederick Douglass, and I told him that I read, I knew of this quote, but he posted it on social media, and I'm not partial to social media. The only way it gets to me is because I like him, and so his messages come to me. The rest of it is like noise to me, and I just give it to my office, and they kind of discipline what's there and make sure I get what's important. But something that he has done, it comes directly to me, and I allow it to come directly to me. And he posted this quote from Frederick Douglass, and I'm going to read it again. He read it to you. I'm going to read it again because it's helped me. I told him it helped me. I know of no soil better adapted to the growth of reform better than the American soil. I know of no country where the condition for effecting great changes in the settled order of things for the development of right ideas, of liberty and humanity are more favorable than here in the United States. Frederick Douglass, how did he come to that conclusion? Because of the tension. In order for the idea to manifest its importance, it has to be challenged. So he recognized that a society that is established with recognition of what God has endowed his creation with would, by its nature, be challenged by those that wanted to take the resources of the earth for their selfish interests. It would be challenged by their claim to that exclusively. So within the context of that challenge is the real appreciation for the moral constitution of America. The possibility of a perfect union. And what is perfect? There's no perfect in the life of man. Yes, there is. There is perfect in the life of man. What is it? Perfect intent. Yeah, you're going to be challenged by the environment. You're going to be challenged by those that don't share your vision. But if your intent is to be clean and straight before God, then that power in you that he endowed you with will strengthen you to prevail. So what does that mean? It means that you have the potential that God has given you to overcome every opposition to your dignity as an argument or a establishment or a law, anything that challenges your dignity, you have within you the potential to overcome it and put it in the category of unacceptable, immoral, oppressive influence. That's the story of America. In these United States of America, it was once the law. You would be breaking the law if you taught a human being that looked like me or you, many of you, to read. The person that you attempted to teach to read would be at risk not just to be imprisoned, but lose their life. This is law in America. The same America that said all men are created equal. So here in the soul, this is what Frederick Douglass was talking about. He wasn't talking about the soil. He was talking about the soul. That which is inherent to all human life, that is the reservoir of your dignity. That which reaches beyond your physical existence, that can be transferred to any soil on this earth or anywhere in the universe. Keen and informed minds right now are looking at other planets to accommodate what? The human soul. The human soul is of such richness and such immeasurable capacity for growth that the earth at a point can be confining to it. The human soul wants to reach into every existing source of matter that it can perceive, and it wants a home there. That's the reach of the human soul. And Christ, he said it. Christ Jesus, peace be on him, the messenger of God, he said in his prayer that the Christians, that they repeat and that I love so much. God, your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. What is he talking about? He's talking about the reach of the soul into the peace of everything that exists, that it be accommodated where I am presently. That it have reality where I am presently. That is the reach of every human soul. And that's what Frederick Douglass was focusing our attention on. That America is a discussion on the possibilities of the human soul. Now, I said to you that I have a tradition that I represent. And it too belongs to conflict. Mr. W.D. Farad, the teacher of Elijah Muhammad, was disturbed by the neglect and failure of Muslim world leadership. He belonged to an order of people, thinkers, sensitive souls, religious people, deeply spiritual people that were surveying the earth for the possibility to restore the true humane message of Islam, found no comfort in the reality of Muslim world leadership, even though Muslim world leadership was acquainted with Muhammad the Prophet as a liberator for mankind. Still, Islamic society, even in his time, would be unrecognizable to Muhammad himself. And most certainly in this time, and I'm saying this not just as a speculator of the Islamic moral interest in the world, but as an observer of the neglect of Muslim world leadership, that there is no society on this earth, none, that is under the leadership of Muhammad the Prophet. No matter what they claim, no matter what language they speak, no matter what public rituals they are involved in, Muhammad's interest in the establishment of the human person is not present in their language. Because if it were, there would be no issue for a deprived, oppressed population in Gaza. It would not be a political consideration. It's a humane, moral consideration. And it would not necessarily require the response of a military movement, but only an appeal to human dignity and a requirement that all nations on this earth live up to the standards of what it claims for its own citizens. That's how we know that the Muslim world leadership is in a severe moral dilemma. Mr. W.D. Farad, so many years ago, he had this concern. And he belonged to a group that surveyed the earth for a people that it thought could make the argument on behalf of the principles of freedom, justice, and equality for mankind. This man surveyed the earth along with his group. He belonged to a group of people. And I know that this is a presentation of Mr. Farad that maybe you're not familiar with, but I'm giving you the truth of it. Because I was invited into the leadership of our community by the inheritor of the responsibility to bring that community to its Islamic identity and agreement with the Quran and its teaching. So if anyone says, well, how do you have authorization to talk about Mr. W.D. Farad? I was invited by Imam W.D. Mohammed to talk about Mr. W.D. Farad. He invited me into the leadership of our community and expressed to me, both in public and private ways, the need for myself to accept that responsibility. So in this moment, under these conditions, in this country, in this present world, a survey and an understanding of Mr. Farad's intent for identifying the African American people as this special group is in play. So Mr. Farad identified them as victims of the hypocrisy of America. But he also identified them as a conduit for the expression of God's covenant with mankind. To at once have language to condemn America in its abuses, but also understanding of its potential salvation through and with the experience of a people, a very special people, a people that have in them the genetic connection to Africa, but also have within them the indigenous people connection of the Native Americans, and have also within them the oppressor. Do you know, our people, the African American people, we have all this mix in us. I don't care how much you might identify in your color with the people of the South Sudan, which are the blackest people on the earth. I ain't seen a blacker people in color. I was on the elevator recently with someone from the South Sudan, and I was looking at my hand and looking at her hand, and I said, well, you have a more direct claim to black than I do. And she wasn't offended. I said that to her. She wasn't offended at all. There was beauty in that black face. And it reminded me that these colors that we have, that they're all signs. The variation in the colors, in the languages, in the cultures, are all signs of the movement in the collective human soul for establishment, the establishment of human purpose in society. There was no reason for that beautiful black woman from the South Sudan to be in America, except that she was looking for an environment to satisfy the urge in her eternal moral self. And the question was still unanswered as to whether or not America would satisfy that in her. So here's Mr. Farad surveying the earth and identifying this people. And teaching one person to represent this concern, the person that's well known in history, and really we identify as the first teacher and representative of Muslim identity in America, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And Elijah Muhammad, he was an obedient student to his teacher. He didn't want to violate anything that his teacher introduced him to. And when there was a question that was beyond what his teacher had given him, he stayed true to the teacher and made way for new interpretations, new possibilities. And he identified his leadership as conclusive. He said that no more is coming after me, like me. In other words, one door is shutting and another one is opening. One sun is setting and another one is rising. This recognition belongs to a tradition of responsibility. So this people that Mr. Farad identified, the whole group of African American people that he hoped would embrace Islamic identity and have an appreciation and a receptivity for the Quran, ultimately to make the argument before the world and America that a society can be developed that promotes and fosters the high principles of freedom, justice, and equality. That it is a possibility, that it can be realized, that it is a recognition in the eternal demands of every soul. And America is the last conversation on the earth to bring it into existence. America is the last opportunity in its recognitions, it is the last discussion. It is the conclusive discussion on the uses of sacred freedom to establish the human person in society. That discussion must be had and debated in the spirit of the African American people, in their achievements, in their successes, and in their failures. The African American people have to be able to look at their own social failures and put those social failures in the context of this sacred discussion and understand that you have no exclusivity except that you are keeping hold of the promise of the relationship between yourself and what God expects of you. You have no special importance. You are held to the high standard of the covenant of God just like any other people. And where you fall short, you have to have the courage to address it and strengthen yourself. Stop defending bad behavior, bad thinking, weak behavior, corrupt behavior. In that process, you will have qualified yourself to uphold the system of justice. Not just by yourself, but also in the sole resources of every other people that have been challenged with the same. So the American white people that have had their hypocrisy and they have been challenged, they also have to show an internal courage. Give up your thought that the world is your playground and the burden of social progress is upon your shoulders only, and that you have, by God's design, an exclusive relationship with all of the resources that God created. Give it up. God created everything as service to all humans. And every human on this earth is entitled to every single resource that God created. And every human intellect that God created, He has created with the capacity to find support for itself anywhere on the earth. And every society must accommodate and register this as a moral responsibility. So it is the concern of the American people that a disrespected, disregarded, oppressed population in Palestine have relief. It is the concern of the American people that it identify a war machine, expansionist mind that wants to take possession of every resource on the earth to accommodate its dignity and justifies the deprivation of any other population if it gets in its way. It is the moral responsibility of the keenest of the intellects of these United States of America to target such enemy to mankind and to put them on the sideline of influence in the world. If there were a Christian population that was being treated like the Palestinian population is being treated, we would expect that the Christian world would rise in condemnation of that oppressive influence. So me speaking about our situation with our brothers and sisters in Palestine shouldn't disturb anyone. I'm a Muslim, and largely that population is Muslim, and they have Christians among them too. But it is a concern, as Dr. Angela Davis. I don't like everything about her. I don't like her Marxism. But she said recently that there was no higher moral test for mankind than the concern of the Palestinian people. I could have kissed her. I don't like any idea that wants to marginalize the responsibility of obedience of human beings to God. I don't like, I don't want to make accommodation for it. But even some of the people that I appreciate and love very much, I'm not sure that they knew who the real God was. Nelson Mandela, I appreciate and love him. His moral leadership and his determinations and courage, but I'm not sure he knew who the real God was. I'm not sure of that. I couldn't debate on his behalf with regard to that concern. But certainly his embrace of the possibilities and potential for human life, and something in his social ideal, his political philosophy, opened his eyes to it. I suspect that what dawned in his soul was similar to what dawned in the soul of Frederick Douglass. That it was a recognition that human life has been designed for purpose, and that purpose must be regarded and respected in society. That society has an obligation to support its development and its establishment. I suspect that this is what happened with Nelson Mandela. And I'm certain that this is what happened as an influence in Dr. Angela Davis. But the point is that we're living in the time of tyrannical rule on this earth. And because of the circumstances of tyrannical rule, something is triggered in the spirit of man. Access to some eternal moral principles are opened up in the conscience. Not only to subdue or end the reach of tyrannical rule. That's not the objective. It is to recognize the dignity with which God endowed human life and what are the sacred entitlements of human life, and to acknowledge them, to support them, and to demand of society that they be accommodated in that dignity. And that, as it dawns in the conscience of man, is the beginning of a new birth and the beginning of what I call the just order. I don't think I need to say anything more. I'm concluding with that. That is the dawning of the just order. Thank you very much. Peace be on you. Assalamu alaikum.
Before we officially conclude with today's program, we have these envelopes. If you feel generous and want to support this message continuing around the country in the way it was broadcast today, please give this to Imam Muhammad Ali. Imam Muhammad Ali, could you stand up so people can see you? You can give this envelope to Imam Muhammad Ali. We thank Allah for what we heard today, and we're going to conclude with the prayer and dua of Imam W. Dean Muhammad, the prayer of purification and purpose. O Allah, we cannot manage this life for ourselves, not without you. Please make our life what you would want it to be, what you prefer it to be. Do not allow us to act on our own. Help us to act only in obedience to you. We hear you, we obey you, and we look to you for forgiveness, our Lord.